It's a cruel world after all. Swinny, cruel world.
Yes.
Backstory. The devs reached out to us, called us out. Although they don't really think that they called us out, but calling us out, saying we haven't played this game. So we have gone as deep as we can on this game. And I think we have mixed views on it. So this is a game, again, that came out of a game jam, weird social experiments. I guess the thesis from the devs is that people are going to ruin this game. So you get into these like little points where you need to save or progress through the game, open doors, things like that.
And it's a platformer that's
Yeah.
like that you can die really easily.
Yeah, it's a pretty brutal
Very
platformer.
brutal.
Very basic, but like almost like a very basic version of Super Meat Boy or something. That's not very accurate, but you know what I'm trying to say with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's these save points, and essentially, like, you know, it's a bit of a riff off blockchain and a criticism of blockchain. It's this idea of like you have to quote unquote hack the save point, let's just simply say it, and you can then permanently put your name down on the list, or you can just hack it in a playthrough and then save, and it will go away when you close the game.
And that hacking, like in the form that I was playing at, could sometimes take up to 5 minutes.
Yes.
Sometimes more.
Yeah,
sometimes less.
Yeah, but very much the way I was playing this game, it's like, get up to a point where I can save or do something like that or read something. Okay, I'll hack that, and then I just put the game to the side and start doing other stuff. Oh, it's finished. Okay, I'll go back to the game. So, you know, and that's part of the, like, this is an art game, let's be real. And that's point of the, like, you know, point of the art, right? Like they're kind of making a bit of a criticism, I think, of people and blockchain and selfishness of people. And, you know, selfishly, Mike and I put our names down permanently on some of the nodes. I kind of did it as a bit of a joke. I don't know if you kept doing it.
I did
Mike,
it just to see what happens, to be honest. I just wanted
So the
to
question I
explore
had is, I know you guys did it for the first node at least, because I could see Intergot's name pop
Yeah.
up, and that's in the thumbnail, by the way, so we can see that. But Mike, did you do it for everything?
No, I did it. I think I did it for one. Wasn't maybe two. I just wanted to see what it is. To be honest, I wanted to experience the game and figure out what hacking was and figure out what it meant to mine the node and make it yours and stuff like that, and have your name come up. I kind of just wanted to explore the game world in that sense. I didn't do it to be a dick or anything. I just did it just to see one of the mechanics of the game.
And you've subsequently made it harder for everyone now.
I know. I apologize to anyone who's still playing the game.
Too bad.
I did, but I'm
That was
sorry.
part
I
of the
needed
game.
to.
It's
I
fine.
needed to part of the game. I needed to figure out what the game was all about, and that was part of the game. I had to see it for myself.
And just for me, Swinny, so like, you know, and if anyone wants to see bad gameplay, the B-roll on the YouTube clip is actually of me playing. So, you know, and just before anyone says anything, I know I'm the Dean Takahashi of Bigwig Incorporated, so that's fine.
Sheesh,
I don't
that's a
care.
big cut.
I don't care. It's fine. And every single time I typed in mine, and then I just deleted it. I never actually pressed enter. Yeah, so there's no reason to do it unless I guess you want to come back a lot later and play the game, I guess, Winnie.
Yeah, that was the part I was trying to understand is what, because I found myself progressing really easily without making any of the terminals mine. So I was trying to understand, is it simply just to make your mark?
Yeah,
and
100%.
And also that,
Make it more difficult for others.
you know, people that want to, watch the world burn a bit, you know?
Well, it means because, you know, when I go back into the game, I can go up to any point that I've mined and then just save instantly.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a selfishness thing. It's like a trade-off.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be selfish and benefit me, but then every single other person who plays it, it's going to be harder.
And there's specific parts that I got up to where... So there's a part where you have to hack 2 doors in a row.
Yes, I did this as well.
Then
Go on.
hack a monument. Then hack the 2 doors to get back out. So essentially 5 hacks in a row. And that's where I'm like, oh man, if I'd made those 2 doors mine, I assume they would have stayed open on the other side.
Yeah, they would have, yeah.
So I didn't make any save terminals or info terminals
Of course not.
permanent, but I did for the crown monuments that I came across. Because I thought to myself, especially one of them, there's one on the roof So you get up onto the top of the roof, and then you've got to do some pretty tricky jumps. And at that point, I was still learning. I'll get into the mechanics in a second, but I was still learning, all the little tips and tricks of how the character works. And when I got up there, I'm like, you know what? I want to put my name on this monument. I don't think that stops anyone from progressing. I think it's more of just from what I could tell, just hey, you're putting your name on this thing because you got up here. But the info terminals is probably my favorite thing of this game. The idea behind them. So this game it plays nothing like it, but it's got the same feeling I had when I was playing Cave Story, where there's the world. There's these things you just don't know, and the way it kind of explains them to you, and it's kind of Fez-like in some ways as well, where you don't understand how the spikes work unless you figure out by accident until you read a terminal exactly. You don't understand some of the different mechanics, and there's like some of the jumping mechanics are really tricky to get used to, but they're kind of almost like hidden until you like figure out, oh wait, I can actually do this, or I can. How do I manage to jump 3 blocks high as opposed to 2 blocks high?
Can I just quickly go into that, Swinny? Because I never learnt how to double jump properly in this game.
Yeah.
So how do you double jump in this game? I don't understand the mechanic of it.
So I understood double jumping that you do like the spin jump when you're spinning, and then if you hit it at a certain arc, you'd get the double jump.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
And you could do it consistently?
Look, I wouldn't say I hit it every time, but pretty consistently because
I couldn't
as you get further in. So I played it quite a bit. I got to what I assume are like the DLC areas, like the Sky Temple areas and that. And some of those jumps are really tough, where you 100% have to be using double jumps. And I got to a screen where it was pretty rough, and I said, look, I'm happy to put it down for now. And I'd experienced a lot of the game up until that point. But I ended up going to DLC, I think, before I finished what was probably the main part of it. So, and I couldn't figure out how to get back out. I can't remember exactly how you can get back to previous areas if you load the game up again or something. But I just love the fact that the game is really simple, but it's got all these little hidden elements to it. And I actually had a blast playing this game. I really, really enjoyed it. I think the controls are, for a game that you play for keyboard, that it requires like pixel precision. I actually found it really, really fun to play. So
what did you think of it, Mike?
Yeah, I think certain other people.
Well, as a contrast to what you just said, so I keep thinking back, and I've actually opened it up because I think it's worth reading again. The quote that came from the creator, which was that I was wrong about what people were willing to endure, accept, or even embrace. I have a more positive view of what people are capable of enduring now, but I don't know if that's a good thing. People can get used to and even find joy, beauty, and solace in just about anything. On one hand, this is admirable and quite beautiful, which is what you did, Swinny. But maybe it means as the end of the world draws nearer, instead of fighting to stop it, maybe everyone will just endure it. I'll be honest with you, I didn't enjoy the game. I went back to the real cruel world after sort of the 3rd level, and I did real world things, because as much as I absolutely command, and just reading the comments from the creator, this guy seems awesome. Like, I'd love to talk to him in person. I'd love to even have him on the podcast and stuff.
Yeah, we should. Yeah,
shit
on him, and then let's get him on the podcast.
I am not shitting on him and his creation whatsoever. I think it's brilliant. I absolutely think it's brilliant. And just being able to create something as cool as this and to make it in such a short period of time is, to me, mind blowing. Like, it's amazing. I'm absolutely not shitting on it. All I'm saying is I am one of those people who do not endure stuff for the sake of just enduring stuff. And yeah, with me, it was the complete opposite experience, I think, to what you had, Swinny. I bailed out. I see the beauty in this, and I see how amazing this thing is. But I went back to the real cruel world, I think, on this one.
Interesting. The question I have is, those are early areas. I was almost shocked, surprised by how they weren't very punishing. Like,
I like how Swinny's always like...
They weren't super bad, no.
Humble brags.
No, this is not a humble brag. I was expecting the game to be more like I want to be the guy style where you're gonna die all the time, and it's a very
Died a
forgiving
few
game.
times.
But there's times
Sweeney, can I just say, Sweeney is the guy who's like making NES games back in the 80s, and he's like, man, Battletoads is easy. What are people worried about?
no, let me finish my point. I'm saying that I was expecting the game to be much more punishing. It gets punishing later, but it's much fairer than I was expecting. It really was, and that's why I was surprised. I was expecting to kind of bounce off because I'll get to the point where, oh man, I'm gonna have to it's gonna take ages to hack these. I'm dying all the time, and there's certain rooms where you know until you get the hang of it, you're gonna die all the time. Like I talked about, this room called consistency, which you have to be really consistent with the mechanic where you bounce up the single
Yeah,
lane.
that's where I
passages.
died. Like, I stopped playing.
Yeah,
I
so you
couldn't
have
be
to-
consistent.
You have to do it like 3 to 4 times in a row. You can save at a point that's above, but you have to kind of like do a tricky jump to get up there. That's examples where like it does take perseverance to get through, but like the Sky Temple area is like that's to me what I was expecting. Where it's like, okay, I'm dying all the time, and those first few areas, that's why I was surprised that you bounced off so quickly, Mike, because I didn't feel it was that way. And I guess if you bounce because you just weren't enjoying it, that's a different thing.
No,
altogether.
that's why. It wasn't necessarily a difficulty spike or anything. I think I just had too much stuff in the real world to do to persevere. And it's
real
a really
cruel world.
the real cruel world, yeah. And it's a really fascinating thing because the reality is through that adversity is where you do get satisfaction from. And I think if you look at the game from that perspective, and it's the same as life in general, it's almost not so much that people just accept certain things, it's that when they overcome the adversity that comes from certain challenges in life, you get way more satisfaction than if you just coast through and it's easy and pointless, basically. So I think you kind of you experience a part of the game that I almost am jealous that I didn't get to experience. You know what I mean? Because I didn't get to go through those challenges and have that satisfaction at the end, knowing that I've completed that. It's one of those things that for the rest of my life, I will never know what it's like.
The funniest moment for me, and I did mention this, but I obviously didn't say what it was in our offline chat, was that that consistency room, and I was getting through and it went through all these areas, and then it just spits you back out like where you came in, and I like. Oh, so it was like honestly for nothing, but it made me laugh that I just spent all this time doing something that just spits you back where you were, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty funny.
That's cruel.
pretty funny.
That's cruel, is what that is. It's awesome.
I
So,
just
yeah,
like, for me, the biggest
yeah.
thing was like I couldn't get the mechanics down perfectly each time. So like the double jump was like pissing me off so much. You can even see in the footage, I was trying to do this double jump. I'm like, how do you do the double jump? Like I've done it a few times. I just couldn't nail it. And then weird shit like if you, Swinny, you can explain how this works, but if you hold down and then move to the right or the left and jump and move, you roll straight away.
Yeah, there's also weird things like there's certain I couldn't figure this part out. Sometimes when your character moves across, they kind of hop, and at certain times I hop a bit higher. That if you jump at the height of that, then you can go a bit higher. I couldn't get that stuff down pat. Sometimes I just had to kind of like almost brute force it. Like I got stuck in an area. One of the rooms has a little gap. It's just a hole of 3 blocks basically. And
Yeah. I got stuck there. You can even see
and I'm
the
like,
footage.
I can't get out of this bloody hole. And I got out of the hole and then I bounced back in. I'm like, goddamn this bloody hole.
So the way I learned was that if you hold down and then press right or left, you start to roll straight away.
Yeah.
And that's how I bounced out of there. I was like, oh my God, is that there to teach you that? Like, there's a way to get out.
And
I don't know. It's a funny game. It's a funny game.
I did read most of the info journals, but there's probably some that I... the problem I had with the game was that I kind of got lost because I kind of hit some dead ends and figure out where to go, and ended up all the way back at the start. And you got to remember, I'm having to rehack every single door and everything each time I go through. So thankfully, I finally found the way forward, and I ended up in that DLC area, as I said, but I had like 3 keys on me, and I'm like, oh man, maybe I should have gone back to the other areas to see if I could I guess try to finish the main game, But it was. Look, I really, really enjoyed it. As I said, it kind of gave me that vibe of Cave Story. It's not like Cave Story is a much more complete experience, but that's the kind of vibe I got from it in terms of this is some indie kind of cool experience that one person's worked on.
In such a short period of time. Seriously blows my mind to get all of that done so quickly.
Well, I think they did some extra work after the game jam, but yeah, like the core
Still, though,
idea.
it's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So I just say
amazing.
thanks again to John Malloy, one of the devs on the game, for reaching out.
Yep.
Very, very
Thank
cool.
you.
Very cool person. Like, I was asking about Game Maker Studio versus Godot, which is what was used to make this game. Godot's very cool. Like, if you want to make games, I'd probably check out Godot because it's free and it can make
think-
2D and 3D games.
I think we should call out where people can actually get Cruel World. So it's on itch.io on Droken's channel. So it's, I think, DROQEN.itch.io. And if you want to go straight to the Cruel World page, then /cruel-world.
Yeah, and you can actually check out Mike and I. We are mined into that game
did.
permanently, and so is Swinny. If you get up to, of course, Swinny has to
let-
be
yeah,
bold and get to
course.
a difficult pun in the game. Maybe Mike is the Dean Takahashi of the podcast, given that he gave up on level 3. No, it's gonna fall flat, isn't it? We can't argue he's bad.
I'm trying to think
No,
if
it's
Mike
bad.
knows who Dean Tucker is.
And I don't know. So
Oh, okay. So the reference is, Mike, that there was a reporter for VentureBeat
yeah.
who was playing the Cuphead tutorial stage, where it's just showing you the mechanics of
Yeah,
Cuphead,
yeah.
and he couldn't get through it,
Oh wow.
and it was streamed or something, or it was like in his review or whatever, and people were just ripping. This is when this big topic about like how good at games do people need to be to review them, and do you need to finish games and everything. And just quickly, Jeff Grubb, who did a lot of the reporting around Starfield, his Twitter bio is, "I'm friends with a guy who couldn't play the Cuphead level," which is one of the greatest Twitter bios. And I was like, yeah, the Dean Takahashi. I guess I have to wear that, given how good you guys are at games. Relatively, I'm bad. But yeah, Cruel World, very, very cool. Thanks to the devs again.
Very
Check it
cool.
out. It's I love art games. I'll just keep going on about that. And it's an art game, and it's cool. It's cool to that interactive mediums can create these kind of different experiences that you can't get from any other medium. So yeah, check it out. I think that'll be the last time we covered it. I think it's 3 times that we've covered this game now. So I think we're done. Unless Mike comes back later and completes the game.
Yeah,
fully.
exactly. And then I'll do a whole thesis on the philosophy behind the game.